Wonderful. Welcome to the November 4th meeting of the Governance Committee of the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees. At this time, I will conduct a roll call attendance to determine if a quorum is present. Please clearly respond present when your name is called. Courtney Nicolato, I am present. Jay Placencia.
Present.
Charlie Fogarty. Michael McNally.
Present.
Barbara Cottom.
Present.
Mayra Gindi. Margot Cook. Here, present. Mark Palange.
Present.
All right, a quorum is physically present, and then we'll call the meeting to order. A reminder to everybody, we would ask that you clearly identify yourself whenever you make a motion or a second to a motion so that we can make sure that we actually jot that down in the minutes. The first order of the business is acceptance of the agenda. May I have a motion that the Governance Committee of the URI Board of Trustees accept the agenda for the meeting of November 4th, 2021?
So moved. Jay Placencia.
Do I have a second?
A second, Mike McNally.
Any discussion on the motion? Being none, I'll ask for a voice vote. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it, and the motion to accept the agenda is approved. The next item on the agenda is item number 2, approval of the minutes for the October 18th, 2021 meeting of the committee. May I have a motion that the Governance Committee of the URI Board of Trustees approve the minutes of the October 18th, 2021 meeting of the committee?
So moved, Mike McNally.
Second. Jay Placencia.
Any discussion? Being none, I'll ask for a voice vote. All in favor? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is approved for the minutes of October 18th, 2021 meeting of the Executive Committee. Next up is our discussion items. There's a number of things that we as a Governance Committee have been working on, whether it be policies or processes for the Governance Committee and for the board at large. And so the first thing on our agenda is to talk about the URI Board of Trustees nomination process. One of the things that as a new board, we're going to be coming up against our first term limits. And so thinking through the process as to which we will go through that is new to everybody. And so I wanted to share a little bit about what we're thinking, and also wanted to follow up on a conversation we had at the last meeting around opening up a process for folks to be able to nominate who they feel should be considered for the URI Board of Trustees. And so we put together a timeline of what the process should look like. Margot and I had a chance to look at it. We're meeting with some team members internally as well to button this up, but we'll be providing and sharing this with you at the next meeting. But really, most of our board expirations are on end of February. We have 11 of our 17 board members at the end of February's terms will be expired. So really the process to start evaluating board members happens in June. And so in June, we do ask, and everybody completed that process for the Board of Trustees to complete a self-assessment. This is where we want to hear loud and clear from the board members what they're so proud of, what they feel strong about, what they would like to be more involved in or less involved in, whatever it might be, as well as gauge how the board is doing overall. And so that is really what kind of sparks the process from our perspective. From there is what we did at our September meeting, is we aggregated the results and we presented some recurring themes that we saw, and that will continue. And then really the process starts individually at this point in time. And so there's 2 different ways. President Palange will share in a bit about the positions of student representative and faculty representative and what the next steps on that is. But for trustees that are voting members, those that have expirations, Marco and I, over the course of the next few weeks, will be reaching out to each and every one that and talking about any interest on an additional term. From there, we're going to be building an annual report, for lack of a better term, to share with the governor, the speaker, and the Senate president on highlights and activities that the board has taken part in, as well as meet with the governor, Senate president, and Speaker of the House on any board members that are up for renewal, as well as any open positions based on the conversations that we have with board members, as well as any other activities that we want to take. And so from there, we will meet with them, understand openings, non-openings, what's next. They will be thinking about their selections as well. And then we'll be working with them and the Senate Education Committee through advisement and consent process. Once that is done, we want to create a board orientation process so that new board members feel connected to the organization, to the work. We all had a great orientation and got to know many of our senior leaders quickly and got to know what it means to be a trustee at a higher education institution. We want to make sure that that continues. And so one of the things that I know we'll be talking about as a group is what that orientation should contain and what that should look like. And so we want to make sure we earmark that for the next meeting as well. I'm looking at Michelle Career. And so then they start. Their first meeting will be at the end of April. And if all goes to plan, as we know, the best laid plans, right? But we want to make sure that they're walking in to that first trustee meeting with confidence. And we will make sure that happens. So wanted to share a little bit more to come. We will clean this up. We will make sure we're going to walk through this with our colleagues in government as well to make sure they're comfortable with it. But we wanted to make sure we had a structure in place on how this will be handled over time. Any questions? There's a lot to throw out in a relatively small amount of time. Any feedback or comments of what you heard? All right. All right, let's move on to item letter B, faculty trustee and student trustee appointments. And so in RI GL 1632 2.2 and section 2.3 of our bylaws, there are appointments by the president. The president of URI will appoint one faculty member and one student member. And that should be for single 2-year terms. And so as we know with Mayor Gimby on our committee, we've been abundantly grateful to have faculty and student representation on our board. But that time has come for us to, and for the president to start thinking about what's next. And so, Mark, if you want to share any thoughts on your timeline and kind of what you're thinking about these two great representatives.
Yeah, I certainly want to acknowledge both our student member, Chris Volk, who I don't think is here at the moment, but has done a great job, and certainly I thought did a very good job at representing the interest of the student body at large. So we had a very good sense there, and it's also my pleasure to acknowledge Professor Myra Daly, who's just done a wonderful job as well, I think, bringing the perspective of the faculty. So I will both for the student, it'll be important that we have someone from Student Senate leadership, and from the faculty that we have also an active and engaged faculty member. So the appointment change happens in
End of February.
End of February. So yes, in the coming weeks.
Sounds good. All right, we'll work with you to make that happen. And then we will follow the process, if that's okay, President Erlange, because we will need to bring that through the confirmation process. You did advising consent, right? Did you do that?
Yes.
Yeah. So it will go through the Senate Education Committee as well. So we'll work on timing.
Yeah.
Wait, advising consent is that from the Senate?
Did you go
No.
in front of the Senate?
No,
You did
no,
not have to go.
I thought
Okay.
it was like a
Okay,
concept. No,
good. I just want to
no.
make sure. I was not here yet for that, so I didn't know.
Yeah.
So
I was spared.
Gotcha. All right, good. So that makes it easier from a timeline perspective, at least. So, great. All right. Any questions on faculty, trustee, and student representative? Great, thanks so much. Next up is my incredible vice chair, Jay Placencia, is going to talk a little bit about board compensation matrix and updating our annual survey.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Not compensation, just so you know, we're not being compensated.
Sorry.
But it's about board composition.
Not enough
And as you know, right? And as you know, last year, because we were a fairly new board, we were looking to figure out, who is on the board, what are the skills that we all possess, age, work skills, our ethnicity, background, all kinds of information. And as you know, we collect other information as the time goes on, and we've decided that we're looking to add more questions so that we can get a really good sense of who is on the board. A few of the things that we're going to be adding to the board matrix this year will be questions around what skills you have, what attributes you've got. Both Mike and Mary gave us some really good ideas here. What experience do you have, and also what are you passionate about? Just so that we can sort of have a better guide as to who is on the board and also what other things might you be interested in being involved in. So, that's coming soon. We're working on the updated matrix now. We're thinking about getting it out to you guys, probably, well, to us at some point mid next year to coincide with the schedule on the board renewals. So that's my report. I'll get it to you guys as soon as possible, and so that you can take a look. And the idea is to not have this be a static document. We want us to add other questions that we think might be, important to the board.
Yeah, and the timing thing, we did it when last year, January?
I think it was January, yeah.
I think
yeah.
so. And that worked well, but with expirations of 4 terms at the end of February, we've decided we have all the composition matrix completed for everybody that's on the board today. And so let's wait until mid-year when we have the new board members coming in. Does that make sense? Does everybody feel comfortable with that?
I mean, it's going to be very helpful when we look to get new board members, because you look at the skills matrix and people that are coming off may have skills that you'll need, and you'll need to get those skills with new board members. So there's certain skills you're going to need on the board. You'll have to recruit for that.
And as we do our work, realize that we need other skill sets as well. So we need to continue to have this thing be larger.
Yes. No, I think it's great.
Yeah.
Good. Well, we're excited to get that moving and have an updated process. So thanks, Jake, for your leadership. All right, action items. We have lots of things going on to talk about today. We're going to keep the board busy tomorrow in approvals, that's for sure. But first off, I want to talk about an amendment to a resolution from May of 2020 that designated the URI Research Foundation as the sole and exclusive agent of the URI Board of Trustees for intellectual property. And so there is a need for an amendment. And so I want to turn it over to our General Counsel, Alyssa Boss, to provide an explanation on the agenda item.
Just as a brief background, in 2007, the Research Foundation was formed by a legislative act. The legislative act included in 1632.1-24 the power of the Research Foundation to pursue, obtain, and protect intellectual property rights, including patents, trademarks, tangible materials, and copyrights, and all valuable intellectual property flowing from the University of Rhode Island, and administer the intellectual property in conformity with the laws. So when the Board of Trustees was organized, it was recommended by the General Counsel at the time that the Board of Trustees, consistent with the powers under its legislative act, should officially delegate that power to the Research Foundation in order to be consistent with the Research Foundation's enabling legislation. So the resolution that was passed in May of 2020 was to give the sole and exclusive authority to administer intellectual property to the Research Foundation. The sort of the catch in this is that the practice at the time, and still is that university marks, which are things like the thing do, have never been research related and have never actually been administered or managed by the Research Foundation. And so as the policies were being reviewed by the policy task force and the work groups that are handling policy review, they realized that there was an inconsistency between our actual practices and what these delegations said. So what we want to do is just revise that 2020 delegation vote to indicate that these university marks don't fall within that exclusive delegation to the Research Foundation. This is consistent with the Research Foundation's understanding as well. They don't want to administer these. These are things like, giving someone a license to put a brand logo on a t-shirt, things like that really doesn't relate to research. And so we want to just clarify that and reflect on our practice.
And Alyssa, that current practice, is it within student affairs? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Any questions for Alyssa? Then I will make a motion that the governance committee of the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees recommend the Board of Trustees approve an amendment to the URI Board of Trustees, May 8th, 2020. Actually, it's an award for, or some type of like prize for the number of times you say Board of Trustees. Resolution designating the University of Rhode Island Research Foundation as the sole and exclusive agent of the URI Board of Trustees for intellectual property as recommended and presented in enclosure 4A.
So moved.
Second.
Jay Placencia.
Any discussion on the motion? All right, being none, I'll ask for a voice vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is approved. The next section is to talk about a number of policies that are up for review and or recommendation to the URI Board of Trustees. Before we start that, I just want to note one of the things that we've seen is, all of the board policies come through governance, and it's pretty diverse in what comes through. Things like intellectual property, things like the marks. And then there are some that are board related activities. And so because of that, I think it's really important that our committees who have that level of content or subject matter expertise are involved in the process of reviewing as well. And so what I'm proposing, and I want to just make sure that everybody feels comfortable with this, is that in that first round where the governance committee is reviewing the process, I would like to also send that to the committee that is apropos to. They do a review, we bring that back, and then the governance committee will have both of those committees' reviews that we can check to move forward through the process. Is that okay? Any issues?
Excellent idea.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. All right, so let's look at the URI Board of Trustees policy on awarding honorary degrees. So as you know, we took up this policy for review at our October 18th meeting. And so this is the time for us we've made those changes and edits reflecting of the conversation. So thank you everybody for your feedback. And so this is for action. So I need a motion. May I have a motion that the governance committee of the URI University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the URI Board of Trustees policy on the awarding of honorary degrees as recommended and presented in enclosure 4B1.
Charlie Fogarty, I move approval.
A second.
Mike McCann, second.
Any discussion? I do want to thank Charlie Fogarty for his leadership on putting this policy together. All right, being no additional discussion, I'll ask for a voice vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is approved. The next is policy on ethics and conflict of interest. This is the third action item today, and I want to turn it over to Kara Larson, Assistant Vice President for Enterprise Risk Management, to talk about the policy.
Substantive changes requested, so the policy is presented. Have no substantive changes discussed at the last meeting.
And those were for ethics, conflict of interest in research, and public-private partnerships in research and development. Great. Any questions for Kara? All right, let's do these one by one, please. May I have a motion that the governance committee of the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the URI Board of Trustees policy on ethics and conflict of interest as recommended and presented in enclosure 4B2.
So moved. Jay Placencia.
Charlie Fogarty, second.
Any discussion? Being no discussion, I'll ask for a voice vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is approved. May I have a motion that the Governance Committee of the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the URI Board of Trustees policy on conflict of interest in research as recommended and presented in enclosure 4B3?
So moved. Jay Placencia?
Can I get a second?
A second, Mike McDaniel.
Any discussion? Being none, I'll ask for a voice vote. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is approved. The fifth action item is the review of URI Board of Trustees policy on public-private partnerships in research and development. Can I get a motion that the Governance Committee of the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the URI Board of Trustees policy on public-private partnerships in research and development as recommended and presented in enclosure 4B4?
So moved, Mike McDaniel.
Can I get a second?
I'll second. Jay Placencia?
Any discussion? Being none, I'll ask for a voice vote. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is approved. The next is the policy on intellectual property. This is the review of the Board of Trustees policy on intellectual property. I will ask Director Brian Knapp and Associate Vice President Michael Katz to provide an explanation of the agenda item. If you could come near a mic, that'd be great. Thank you.
Property policy. Since that time, quite a few have been policy. We just simplified that to go from a tiered system to slightly increase the amount that would go to faculty so that there wasn't a tier, or just stay at 40% flat rate. That was one of the primary changes. One of the other important changes was related to our bi-dole obligations when we have federal sponsored research. There are a couple Supreme Court and Federal Circuit case that some universities had issue with inventors who may have were expected to have assigned their rights to an invention to the university, but may have worked with a company where they signed an assignment as well. There's a well-known Supreme Court case, Stanford v. Roche, which made it very critical that you have what's called a present assignment. You say, I hereby assign. And subsequent to that case, there was also a Federal Circuit case which showed that faculty handbook type agreement saying that since the university doesn't have all employees who have signed an assignment, present assignment, and going back to do that can be challenging to execute. So one of the changes in this policy also was to create a present assignment for intellectual property that employees, as they're agreeing to abide by all the policies of the university, would also agree to that. And that would put us in compliance with the bi-dole obligations. So there are a few other tweaks and changes, but those are, I think, some of the most substantive changes. Dan, unless I'm missing something.
I think the procedures from the original version, not the one that was reviewed here in the last meeting, but the previous iteration of the policy. And there's also some additional language here on student IP, right? That's one of the other additions. And I think the only thing that's important to point out here is in the draft that you all see today, there is the one change that Brian had pointed to, which was a strengthening of the language about present assignment. I just wanted to make sure that that was that was clear, that that was one, and it is redlined in your, in the draft copy that you have. So that's a clarification that keeps us in compliance with the Bay-Dole Act.
Great, thanks, Dan. Thank you, Brian. Any questions for Brian or Dan?
Can I ask a question?
Please.
The 40% remuneration for faculty, how does that compare with standard other universities or institutions?
Would say it's average to above average. 40 is probably what you'll most frequently see at universities. So it's, I would say that the median is a huge, like, number of universities. So we're well within the standard norm expected university.
Great question, Mayor. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, may I have a motion that the Governance Committee of the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the URI Board of Trustees policy on intellectual property as recommended and presented in closure 4B5.
So moved, Michael Canley.
Can I get a second?
I'll second, Jay Placencia.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a voice vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is approved. The next is policy on university trademarks and licensing. This is the 7th action item focused on university trademarks and licensing. And I'll ask Dr. Dan Muse to come back and share a little bit about this agenda item.
Certainly, I think what's important in this particular item is that there have been a few, not a few, there's been a single change to the draft that was reviewed by this group in the last meeting. And this was a change in the language regarding the delegation, the management of marks, of university marks. And again, this is a policy focused on operational university marks. This is associated, with the resolution that Alyssa discussed just before. And this new language delegates the authority for the management of the marks to the Vice President for Student Affairs. And to give you a background on how this came about, the Office of General Counsel went to this policy and looked at it again. And in consultation with the Vice President for Student Affairs, there was discussions that the management of the marks by a committee was probably not a good operational function. As you know, the student group wants to put a mark on a T-shirt or a mug. There are many requests for this. This wasn't a very good committee function. So the decision was to codify the current practice, which is to essentially have the Vice President for Student Affairs manage that process. And the Vice President, the important thing here is the Vice President for Student Affairs is also the chair of the licensing committee. So that's the major change here. I just want to make sure that was called out to this group.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Any questions about the policy? All right, hearing none, may I have a motion that the Governance Committee of the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the URI Board of Trustees policy on university trademarks and licensing as recommended and presented in enclosure 4B6.
Carly Fogarty, so moved.
Second, Jay Placencia.
Any discussion? Being none, I'll ask for a voice vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is approved. After all of that voting, I got one more. I'm asking for a motion to adjourn.
Oh, so moved.
Any second?
Second.
All right, I'll ask for a voice vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? All right, the motion to adjourn is approved. Our next governance committee meeting is scheduled for January 20th, 2022. Thanks, everybody.
Very good.
Seven action.
We said Board of